What's going on, you guys? Kamikazevondoom here with another Division video. Now, this Division video is going to be awesome. Not only is my Hunter character doing the robot, but I'm going to go ahead and show you guys my 1.8.3 Final Measure 6-piece DPS build. Now, Final Measure is a huge contender now in 1.8.3. Everyone knows, since 1.8 and before, Final Measure was always a great contender for a team build. However, with 1.8.3, we are finding out that all of these builds actually work now. And to my surprise, all of the builds are now elevated in such a way that nerfing actually three. So nerfing the top three, being Nomad, Pred, and Striker, kind of rose all of the other gear set tiers up. I mean, yeah, Nomad is still overly populated in the Dark Zone, which everyone knew that was going to happen regardless, even though they only get one proc. Or maybe they're running solo. Pred is still heavily populated as well, but not as much. You're not getting all those kids with the 6-piece anymore. You're getting more like the hybrids, the Predshis, and whatnot, and which is fine. But even with this build, you can go against those 6-piece Preds. Go ahead, throw me on a bleed. I don't care. I'm still going to mow you down. Or better yet, throw a nade and then try to make me bleed. It's even better. But what I'm saying here is that with all the other build tiers rising up, it made Final Measure even more of a contender. So nowadays you're seeing, in a group of manhunts that are actually working the server, you're going to see 4 different builds that are the most popular. Right now, the most popular I've seen is Nomad, followed by D3, Reclaimer, and then a Final Measure. Now, this is for more of support or team-oriented builds. I'm talking about the manhunts. Out of those 4 builds, you'll see at least one of those in every single manhunt. If not, you'll see at least 2 or 3 of them, because the rest of the people are going to be running DPS, i.e., your Banshee, your whatever else, your nice Ninja Bike hybrids. But what I'm getting to here is that Final Measure is a huge contender, and don't sleep on Final Measure. I've been preaching this gospel about Final Measure for a few patches now, and it's even more useful in this patch, being that all the other metas have kind of come down, and Final Measure has risen up. So, without further ado, I am sorry about that rant. However, with the rant over, I hope we can start this build video. But without further ado, I am Kamikazevondoom. If you guys do enjoy these build videos, smash that like, subscribe to the channel, and I will definitely keep the content coming. No, I do not go on rants before every build video. However, Final Measure has been huge lately. All the teams I've run into and the teams that I run with, we have some form of Final Measure with us. It's a huge contender, just saying. Anyways, so as you guys can see while I've been talking, I'm sure you guys have looked at these numbers. Now I am running a 7-6 combo, being 7,000 on the firearms, 6,000 on the stamina. I did this mainly to keep a little more balance of a build. The part that sets this build apart are going to be those buffs you get, whether it be, a stamina buff, electronics buff, or a DPS buff. This build is in a way that one, if not, any of those buffs are going to help you tremendously, to the point where you'll start running out there Leroy Jenkins and think you can take on the whole team. I know, because personally, I've done it. I'll get my buff, and all of a sudden I'll run out there against the server, and I'm just like, yeah, Leroy Jenkins, and then I die. But anyways, enough about that. So this is the 6-piece Final Measure. It is fully optimized. I am at a 291 gear score. I'm running 2 houses, the dual house. This is my old combo, but it's not broke, so I'm not going to fix it. So what I do is I use my Deadly Vicious as my primary, and then I switch down to my Deadly Unforgiving. This being Unforgiving, when you're missing health segments, it increases your damage. However, with my primary, I'm using Vicious, which my critical hit chance is increased by 10% when I have more than 2 segments of health. So if you guys put 2 and 2 together, I use the Vicious, I get my crits, and then when I'm getting focused or I can't heal or what have you, switch to my Deadly Unforgiving, use that damage buff, mow them down, because the DPS really is not that huge difference. The only big difference is the crit chance. Mow them down, switch to my pistol, get that predatory hit, get my health back up, and do it all over again. So what I'm saying about the predatory is my pistol. You can use any sidearm you want. I just prefer the predatory. So with predatory, you kill a target and you regenerate 35% of your health over 20 seconds. So my thing is, if you can find one with predatory, fine. I know a lot of people do the determined, cool-headed, and all the other talents. You can do that. That's just fine. Use a shotgun, whatever you want. But for me, I use this pistol with the predatory. So getting into the actual weapons themselves, the 2 houses are both fully optimized. 21.5k on the base damage. The only difference between the two is that my extended mag on my Unforgiving Deadly has rate of fire, as you can see under my RPMs, and my Deadly Vicious does not. It is pure crits, and it is completely maxed out at 60 and 136. So, getting into the mods, we'll start with the primary. So this is my Deadly Vicious house. Have a loud vent break for the muzzle, 19 on the crit damage, 6 on that headshot damage, and 3 on the crit chance. Small grip, 19 on the crit damage, 5 on the reload speed, and 2.5 on the stability. Pro Red Dot Sight, 19 on the crit hit damage, 3 on the crit chance, 6 on the headshot damage. And finally, that extended mag, 120.5 on the mag size. And then you can see what I was trying to tell you guys earlier is that I am running crit chance and crit damage on this extended mag instead of the rate of fire. So with doing that, you get the 60 and the 136. So going to my secondary, I have Unforgiving Deadly, again 21.5k on the base damage. Going to the mods, pretty similar, just not as good. So this loud vent break does not have the 6 on the headshot damage, but it has 5.5, which is a 0.5% away from max, which is just fine. I still use it. Now the small grip, instead of stability, this one has accuracy at 2%. I am running a mini reflex sight on this, not the Pro Red Dot sight. Reason being is the 7.5 on the crit hit chance, just to get more crit hit chance for this weapon, because it doesn't have vicious or fierce or anything on that. And finally, that extended mag, like I said, it has that rate of fire, that crit hit chance, and 120 on the mag size. So for my secondary, this being the Deadly Unforgiving house, I'm running 55.5 on the crit chance and 117 on the crit damage. Obviously, it's not the 60 and 136, but when I am switching to my secondary, it's not for the crits, it is for the damage. So all that damage, and then add in the 55.5% crit chance, it does work. So those are my 2 weapons. I'm not going to get into the pistol really, just remember that predatory. So let's talk about final measure. Like I said, this is the 6 piece, so we get all 6 set bonuses. Starting off with set bonus 2, you get 25% EDR, exotic damage resilience. Set bonus 3 gives you 15% protection from elites. And set bonus 4 gives you the talent final measure. When in range of a hostile grenade or mortar, Final measure diffuses them and adds the grenade into your inventory. This can only happen once every 8 seconds. So if you are throwing a grenade and you're wondering why your grenade didn't blow up and it just turned green, it's because the enemy was running final measure. So let's talk about the last two classified set bonuses. So set bonus 5 gives you an additional 15% EDR and an additional 15% protection from elites. So that gives you, let's see, that gives you 40 EDR and that gives you 30 protection from elites. And finally, that set bonus 6, improved final measure. So not only do your grenades get diffused, hostile grenades and mortars get diffused every 8 seconds, but now they apply a buff. Now this buff is applied to you and all your group agents within a 30-meter radius. Now there's going to be 3 different types of buffs. You're going to have a skill buff, a stamina buff, and a firearms buff. Now the way it's dictated is it's the type of grenade or mortar you diffuse. So if it's a frag or a fire grenade, you get weapon damage. If it's a flash or a tear, you get armor. If it's a EMP or a shock, you get skill. So depending on the type of grenade, it gives you that type of buff. But if you look at these buffs, they are all 40%. So you get a 40% skill power buff, a 40% weapon damage buff, or a 40% armor buff. All of these buffs are incredible. 40% is huge. Just run this build and just have people throw nades at you and just look at the buffs. It is insane, you guys. But that is your final measure. So let's run through these gear pieces and wrap up this video. We'll start off with the final measure vest. Rolled firearms, attributes, EDR, health, ammo capacity. The 2 mods I am running, both firearms with crit chance. The final measure backpack, again, firearms, and the attributes, crit hit damage and disrupt resistance. The mods I'm running on the backpack, stamina crit chance, and 2 first aid self-heal mods. Go down to the final measure gloves, firearms, attributes, SMG damage, crit chance, and crit damage. Final measure mask, stamina, attributes, crit hit chance, and blind death resistance. Obviously you can trade off that minor attribute. I actually had to roll crit hit chance on this, so I was not given the opportunity to, but you could choose any minor attribute you want on that. I would recommend it being a resistance, so you don't need damage to elites on this build. And finally, the mod on the mask, stamina crit chance. Go down to the knee pads, rolled stamina, attributes, crit hit damage, disrupt and burn resistance, and damage to elites. Again, I'll piggyback on this. The minor attribute, damage to elites, do not roll that on your mask or your knee pads. For PvP, and for this build in particular, you are wanting resistance. You're wanting all of the resistance. Give me all the resistance. Nom 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 resistance. Because you want to get out of that shock, out of that bleed, out of that disrupt as quickly as possible. The faster you do that, the faster they're going to go down. And you being the final measure, you need to stay up because you are a key support role in that team. But the mods on the knee pads, stamina crit chance, and first aid self-heal mod. And finally, that final measure holster, 1401 across the board, crit chance as usual, and a first aid self-heal mod. So we will go through the character sheets and I will wrap this up. Like I said, it is the 7-6 combo, 7,000 or more firearms, 6,000 or more stamina. Electronics are bare bones. Those are for the deadly, unforgiving. Alright, so the character sheet for the Deadly Vicious. Like I said before, 21.5k on that base damage. As you can see, it's actually 21.4 and a half. 60 on the crit chance, 136 on that crit damage, 62 on the headshot damage. I do have 16% damage to elites. No skill haste. The max health I have on this build is 311, and the armor is fully optimized at 8008, giving me 33.5 weapon damage mitigation. Now the protection from elites is at 30%, which is just from using this build. However, I do have EDR up to 51. You can obviously get that into the 70s or higher, however you want it. 51 is a pretty good spot to be. The blind def 17, burn 33, and disrupt 50. Like I said before, you would obviously want shock resistance and disorient resistance. So if you can, get away from the damage to elites for this build and focus on the resistance. Now, wrapping up with my skills and abilities, I am running a booster conceal and a survivor link. Now, obviously, with whatever team you're running, you might want to change to attack or recov. I would keep the booster and the conceal unless someone else is running a better pulse. Then switch it to, disrupt or, whatever you want. Immune box. But for me, booster, conceal, survivor link. Going to the talents, all team based for the most part. Adrenaline, that's your anti-pred. Your critical save, popping those medis actually gives you 20% damage resistance for 10 seconds, which is nice because you are running combat medic. Now, a key to a great team for manhunts or skirmish or last stand or whatever you're doing is use combat medic wisely. Time it out. Have your team synced. Hey man, you see he's going down. Alright, I know you have 5 med kits, pop one for him. Or better yet, don't let me tell you, just pop one for him. Or I have 2 med kits and you have 5, so help me out and pop one. Use that combat medic. You can also use that to your advantage. You use that combat medic early to help out a teammate. You can face tank for at least 10 seconds. Being that you have the damage resistance from the critical save, you also have 7 seconds of immunity, and you just healed your team. It's a win-win. Combat medic is a must for all teams. And finally, strike back. When I reach low health, my skill cooldowns are reduced by 20%. I've been trading this talent out for precision and on the move, but for right now, I've got it on strike back. And there you guys have it. That is my 1.8.3 final measure 6-piece DPS build. You could go higher or lower in the DPS depending on what you want. However, when you get that weapon buff from a frag or incendiary grenade, it's game over either way. But, like always, you guys, it's your boy, Kamikazevondoom here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.